So we'll be starting from Perek Beis in Mesechta Hataamim. Now we're going to do Perek Beis, which, properly speaking, that's the beginning of Olam HaAkudim. Okay, let's begin. So Mesechta Hataamim, Perek Beis. We're going to deal with Olam HaAkudim. Before we spoke about the Uris, which came out of the Ozen, Chotem, and Peh, the Achaf of Adam Kadmon. And the Achaf of Adam Kadmon, as you pointed out, is the Tamim Desag, or Av Desag, and which is Megula. And these Uris are Nimshech over the Guf of Adam Kadmon. These Uris are Chetzenius. They're not Bipnimius. They're not within the Neshama of Adam Kadmon. They're Bechetzenius. And we explained that the Uris HaChotem is Nimshech, the Uris HaIznaim is Nimshech to the Shibelas HaZakan, whereas the Uris HaChotem is Nimshech until the Chaza, until the chest area, and then you have the Uris HaPeh, which is Nimshech all the way to the Tabor. And now, that being said, you realize how there's the Uris Makifim, which are the right side, and the Uris HaPnimim, which are the left side. The right side is always a darga higher. So you have the Uris HaMakifim of the Ozen, you have the Uris HaPnimim of the Ozen, the Uris HaMakifim of the Chotem, the Uris Pnimim of the Chotem, and then you have the Uris Makifim and Pnimim, Akudim B'Kli Echad, they come in one Kli, and that is the siman of how you have by a person's guf, you have the two ears are distant, you have the nostrils, which are a little bit closer, and you have the peh, which is even closer than that. And that is how the Ur is Nimshech. So let's begin with, now we can begin with Perek Beis of Mesechta Hataamim. Here we go. Umaisa Kli Zeh Kachu. The way this Kli works is like this. There is 10 shorashim in 10 shorashim pnimim, meaning these shorashim are within the peh of Adam Kadmon. They're called shorashim pnimim because they're within the peh of Adam Kadmon. And that's what he's saying here. Eser shorashim pnimim shebepeh da'ak, asher hu malchus shebahem, which this darga is. This darga that we're going to be talking about is the Sheresh or Asiri, which is the Malchus of the Uris HaPeh. The Malchus of the Uris HaPeh. So you have the Peh, and within the Peh there's 10 Sherashim, and the 10th Sheresh, which is Malchus, is what we're dealing with now. So with this 10th sheresh, Sheba Yeshud Sherashim Le'asasfiras Asidim Le'tes Ba'olam Shetachteha, the Malchus of this darga within the peh of Adam Kadmon, the Malchus within the peh of Adam Kadmon has within it, of course, 10 spheres, because always every sphere has 10 spheres. So the Malchus Sheba peh of Adam Kadmon has in it 10 spheres. Asher hu ha-malchus shebehem. This is the malchus within the peh of Adam Kadmon. Sheba yesh yud sherashim le'asasfiras asidim le'tzeis ba'olam shetachteha. That within the sheresh or asiri, the malchus shebepeh Adam Kadmon, it has in it 10 spheres, which will soon come out ba'olam shetachteha, in the olam which is beneath the peh. Kikeinu b'chol malchiyos. This is the way it works with all the malchiyos. Yatsa or keser echad. The Malchiyos will always produce Or HaKeser. Since it has in it 10 spheres, when it's going to produce a new Olam, it starts with Keser. So that's why you always find in all the Olamos, you have, for example, Atzilus, you have Malchus da Atzilus, right? So the first Darga underneath Malchus da Atzilus is Keser de Bria, right? Or Malchus de Bria is Keser de Yitzira. And Malchus de Yitzira is Keser da Asiya. So too, by the peh, the Adam Kadmon, within this peh, there's Yud Sherashim. There's 10 spheres within this peh. And the one that we're working with now is the Sheresh Asiri, Malchus Shebepeh Adam Kadmon. This Malchus produces or Keser, one darga of Keser, which is the next step beneath. And yes, that's Kikeinu B'chol HaMalchiyos, that's Or Keser Echad. That's the way it works. Every Malchiyos brings out Or Keser. B'derech Yitziasei Kachu. And the way it comes out is like this. Ki Tchila Yatza B'chinas Malchusai. Here it comes out a little bit different. Here it comes out a little bit different. And the interesting thing...
Are we still in Sad HaKlali?
Yes, yeah, we're still dealing with Avdesag.
Avdesag, okay.
Yeah. Avdesag and the Achaf, the Ozen Chotem and Peh. And what we're going to be doing with the Achaf is we're going to be utilizing the Achaf in bringing them down and congealing the Ozen Chotem and Peh. Because have in mind, the Ozen Chotem and Peh, these lights, they're the lights that are Yetzi Miguf Adam Kadmain. All the Olamos Tachtonim are made from the Achaf. All the Olamos are made from the Achaf, the Ozen Chotem and Peh, the Adam Kadmain. This is something which, if you haven't learned Kisvei, you'd never know. You'd never know that the building blocks from all Seder Ishtalshalos is from Achaf, is from Ozen, Chotem, and Peh. So that being said, so now let's think about this here. So from the Peh to Adam Kadmain is Yotzi one Keser. Okay? So, but the way this is going to work is like this. It's not as it seems. Or Keser is not coming out. What you need to know is that all of the spheros of Akudim are the darga of Keser. They're all Chelkei HaKeser. All of the spheros of the Peh, the Adam Kadmain that are coming out now, are all Keser. They're all parts of Keser. Chelkei HaKeser. Chelkei HaKeser. So, the darga that we're dealing with now, you had the Peh, the Adam Kadmain, right? The Sheresh Asiri, which is Malchus. And from this comes the Sphira of Keser. But all of the spheres of Akudim that were Yotzi mi Peh, the Adam Kadmain, are going to build them up, are going to build itself up, bottom up. So the Keser Echad is the idea that all of the spheres of Akudim are all going to be the Sphira of Keser, but the 10 Chalakim of Keser. But have in mind, the first Giloi...
Like the 10 spheres of Keser?
Yes. The 10 spheres of Keser. But have in mind, the way they're Megala themselves is that first, what's going to be revealed is Malchus. Malchus of this Keser. So this Keser has to be formed. It's the Sphira which is Yotzi B'Peh the Adam Kadmain. Right? Out of the Peh comes the Bechina of Keser. What Bechina of Keser is coming out? Not Keser of Keser. Malchus of Keser. Malchus of Keser. Yeah. And that could be a little bit tricky. Well, when you're reading it in the words, but you read between the lines, you see that really he's talking about Malchus Shebekeser. Okay? So now let's read that inside. This is the way it comes out. In the beginning, first comes the darga of Malchus of Keser. Vatikra b'shem nukva, and that is called nukva. Okay? And I'm just thinking if I should spill the beans here. Let me spill the beans a little bit. I'm not really spilling beans though. But but here's the thing. You should know that there's a difference between binyan hapartzuf to Hamshachas Hashafa. There's a difference between Binyan HaPartzuf, the building of a Partzuf, and the Hamshacha of a Hashpah, a Bracha, or that comes down. Because when you're dealing with the Binyan of a Partzuf, the building blocks of a Partzuf, you build the Partzuf bottom up. Just like when you're building a building, you don't start with the golden tiles. Where you start with really the foundation, the lowest of the lowest, the most insignificant, the most unimportant part of the binyan. So this is what you should know always, and you find this here in the blueprint for all the olamos, that the way olamos are built, the binyan apartzuf is always bottom up. Binyan apartzuf is the bottom upwards. But when it comes down to Hamshachas Hashafa, Hamshachas Hashpah, you're drawing down a bracha, so you say Baruch, and you're drawing down from Keser and from Bina, and you want to uplift Zer Anpin, and etc., etc. But you're drawing down from the highest dargos. You're drawing down from the highest dargos. In general, all the Hamshachas that come down come from Keser, and then from Keser to Chachma and Bina, Abba, Ima, Za, V'nukva. That's the way the Hamshacha, that's the way the Hashpah comes down. That's Hamshachas Hashafa. But Binyan HaPartzuf is bottom up. You start from Malchus, you build that, you build Yisod, which is Zer Anpin, you finish Zer Anpin, you build Abba, you build Ima, and so on and so forth. So that's what he's saying here, and this is what he's essentially showing you within these first steps of the Olam. So let's go back inside. Mishnah Beis. V'derech Yitzios Kachu. The way this comes out is like this. In the beginning comes out Malchus, and that is the Darga of Nukva. That is the Darga of Malchus. And then afterwards, you have the individual spheros which come out from Yesod until Chesed, because Zer Anpin is not one sphera. Zer Anpin is a building block of the 6 spheros, and then eventually they're Makabel Mochen. But so you have Nukva, but then after Nukva you have a continuous drawing down of the Chalakim of Zer Anpin. And that's what he's saying here now. And afterwards comes down, trickles down one by one the spheros of Zer Anpin, which is Mi Yesod V'Ada Chesed. Yesod until Chesed. V'kol echad me Chesed Gvur Tiferes Netzach Hod. And each one of Chesed Gvur Tiferes Netzach and Hod, Mosifim Ba Miklolus Nafsham. They all increase the energy of each other as they're drawn down. B'tseisam b'yesod, as they come into Yesod. So in other words, you have the sphere of Malchus. Malchus comes down and that's it. That's just Nefesh. But then after Malchus, outside of the Peh Adam Kadmon, comes another Chelek of Keser, which is Zer Anpin. So when Zer Anpin comes out, all of a sudden, Zer Anpin has Nefesh, but then also Malchus is Makabel Tosfos Or, additional light, because since it has double fold light now, Malchus has double fold light. So Malchus has the Or of Malchus, which is Nefesh, but it also has the Or of Zer Anpin, which is Ruach. So what does Malchus have? Malchus has Nefesh and Ruach. What does Zer Anpin have? Only Nefesh. That's what he's saying here. But also he's saying that by Zer Anpin itself is Mikabel its own Chalakim step by step, because it's, after all, 6 spheres. So as each of these spheres are trickling down, they're all grabbing parts of a nefesh for its own unit, which is their anpin. And once it finishes drawing down from Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, then it finally has a full nefesh for Yesod. And if there's a full nefesh for Yesod, and if there's a full nefesh for Zer Anpin, so then definitely there's nefesh and ruach for Malchus. And that's how these are going to work. Let's go on. Vayikro kulam ke'echad zer. And all of these together are called Zer Anpin. V'acharehem yatzu bina. And then afterwards comes the darga of bina out of the pad Adam Kadmai. And what are we talking about? We're talking about bina de keser. Bina de keser. That's what we're talking about. Vatikra ima, and that's called ima. Bina will always be called ima. You should know by the Baal MISHNAS CHASIDIM, when he's introducing these things, he also has in mind that you should always keep in mind everything he's saying. And this is something I learned the hard way, really. Because a lot of times you learn, an inyan in Kabbalah, you think, okay, I learned about this olam or that olam. Nice. Then when it comes down to the kavanais, you hit your head. You say, oh, I forgot that yesod. I forgot that yesod. I forgot this. I forgot that. And you realize that everything that the Ari HaKadosh was saying, it's all part of a necessary picture, a necessary puzzle that you will need to understand all of the olamos. Every picture, every piece of the puzzle, you'll need to understand for all of the olamos, and not only that, for kavanas tefillah. So you're going to pass things here, but you shouldn't take it as just a one-time shot. It's never a one-time shot. What he's saying here is Torah, and you have to digest it and make it an integral part of your thinking, because everything he's saying here is so important, and that it all is mushrish in Kavanas Tefillah and other parts of Seder Ishtalshus. So you see here. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll hold my question.
No.
Can you connect it then to what we were talking about at the beginning, which was how does this part that we just kind of read here with the Oros that are leaving the path of Adam Kaidman, right?
Yeah.
At the level of Sag, right? Or Agdasag, Achaf, how does that find its way into the Kavanas?
What do you do with that? You're asking the prize question. That question you can't ask. So these Oros of Oz and Chotem and Peh are brought down in the Kavanas of the Rashash.
Is part of everyday davening, or
yeah, and really every bracha. When you say the words Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, when you say Melech HaOlam, you're uplifting the Rapach Nitzutzos, the 288 Nitzutzos, and you're lifting these Nitzutzos all the way to the Darga of Adam Kadmon. The Rashash explains where they transform into Or that can be brought down. And he goes through the Seder that we're learning. Of course, he doesn't go through everything that we're saying here, but parts of it you see that he goes through the Seder, and you see that you have to know that there's Avsag De'ak, there's Eres Einayim, or Eres Achotem, and Eres Apeh, because that's what's coming down. After you say the words Melech HaOlam, you've drawn from Adam Kadmon all the way down. When you're saying Asher, Kitshanu, B'mitzvota, V'tzivanu, which is basically you're drawing down Mochin to Zer Anpin, where was that Mochin from? That Mochin was from the Rapach Nitzutzos that you uplifted all the way up to the Dargos of Adam Kadmon. And these Oros come out of the Einayim and the Metzach, which you'll learn about soon, but fear not, all of it is within the Kavanis HaRashash. And so therefore, it's important to know that when you're learning Kisvei Ari, never look at anything as like a one-time thing. when you're passing something, it's so important to know it well and to know ki huzeh. This is what it is. This is what it is. Because it's going to come up again, or you're going to need it for kavanas atfila, or for yichudim. Some yichudim bring up inyanim that are from higher dargas of seder ishtashulos. So, but yeah, absolutely, these inyanim are definitely brought up in different ways, not always full blown within the text, but you see that you have to know these inyanim. So okay, so let's go back inside. So here we so far are by the Peh of Adam Kadmon, and we drew out 2 halakim of Keser from the Peh of Adam Kadmon. We drew out Malchus, and we drew out Zer Anpin. And since we drew out Zer Anpin, that means that Zer Anpin only has Nefesh, and Malchus has Nefesh and Ruach, because each one is Mosifim Miklolos Nafsham, as his words were. Mosifim Miklolos Nafsham. They increase from the general drawing down of their soul. They increase within each other. So let's continue. Afterwards comes out Chachma, and Chachma is called Abba. Chachma is called Abba. You got to know this and put that in the pocket. Just like Bina is called Ima, Chachma is called Abba. All right? And then Keser comes out, and Keser will be called Arich. Keser will be called Arich. Ve'elu yihiyu hachamisha partsufim. That is the 5 major partsufim spoken about in every place. Fine. So that would mean, though, that if you count this up, and he's going to say this clearly soon, but if you count it up, so if Malchus came out, Zer Anpin came out, or let me say it like this. Malchus de Keser came out of Peh de Adam Kadmon. Zer Anpin de Keser came out of the Peh of Adam Kadmon. Ima of Keser came out of the Peh of Adam Kadmon. Abba of Keser came out of the Peh of Adam Kadmon. And Keser de Keser came out of the Peh of Adam Kadmon. So if we count these up, we know that there's Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. So, that being the case, if I were to ask you which darga has the most neshama, the most soul, which one would it be? It would be Malchus. Because Malchus was there first, and every darga which is included on top of Malchus increases within Malchus a higher darga. And then, so Malchus would have, since there's 5 partsufim, Malchus would have Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. And Zer Anpin would have Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. And Ima would have Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Abba would have Nefesh and Ruach, and Keser only has Nefesh. So, and he's going to explain this, but I feel like, maybe we should know about it now, so I just told you about it now. So now we're holding Mishnah Gimel. So now, let's continue Mishnah Gimel. Ubesoid Yud Shel Shem. Ubesoid Yud Shel Shem, and by the way, when he speaks about the soid of Yud and then K, have in mind that it's not so integral to the kavana of what he's saying now about these uris which are yotzi mipeh de Adam Kadmon. It's steps that he's showing. So let's read that inside. Ubesoid Yud Shel Shem nispashtu uris elu ad makam asher yesham malchus da'akudim. So these uris coming out, the first step, which is the Yud, which is Keneged the Yud of Shem Havayim, they're drawn out all the way where there would be Malchus Da'akudim. And Malchus Da'akudim is where we mentioned before that's by the Tabur. Malchus Da'akudim is by the tabur of Adam Kadmon. Okay, by the tabur, the belly button area of Adam Kadmon. And since these Ores are chitzonius, they're not pnimius, they're not within the goof of Adam Kadmon, they're not within the goof. But b'chitzonius it reaches the darga of the tabur of Adam Kadmon. So let's read that again. With the first step, which is the Yud of Hashem Havaya, this first step is the hispashtus of the Or, until the area which is Malchus Da'akudim, which is by the Tabur Adam Kadmon, which we're going to explain afterwards. And all of these partsufim that come out, they only first have the darga of nefesh. When the higher darga comes out, it's increased in the bottom darga 1 maila. Ketzad, how? Labalas nefesh ruach. To those that had nefesh, which is malchus of the kli of keser here, labalas nefesh, they get ruach. Ulabalas a ruach neshama. And if they have ruach, then they're going to get neshama. Ulabalas a neshama chaya. And if they already were zoche to the darga of neshama, then they're going to get chaya. Ulabala chaya yichida. And if a darga has chaya, so when keser comes out, that darga will be zoche for yichida. And by the way, that's why the Rashash was very fond of explaining. Like usually when you see a picture of the spheres, you always see it like, oh, there's keser up on top, and then you have the other spheres all the way Malchus on the bottom. But really, in truth, to really understand the spheres, you need to know also that it's zelif nin mizah. You have to understand that it's one within the other. And so if you understand it ba'ovi, if you understand it within depth, so let's say this is the depth, right? This is all the depth, right? And these Ores are transferring its light all the way to here. So let's say we have 5 partsufim, Arachan, Pin, Abba, Ima, Za, and Nukva, and they're all right behind each other, and they're all feeling the heat. They're all feeling the bracha, right? So when Malchus is drawn down, so that's all it has. When Za is drawn down, so Malchus has its light, but it has Tesfes light from Zer Anpin. And then Ba'ovi, you have Ima, and then Abba, and then Keser. All these lights are increasing the heat, so to speak, so that Malchus will have Tosfos light from all of the partsufim. Zer Anpin will only have from 4 dargais. Ima will have from 3 dargais. Abba will have from 2 dargais, and Keser will have from 1 darga. So to understand how that works and how you could piece it in, how their moisif miklolus nafsham would be be'ovi. It would be in depth. So let's continue. Mishnah Hay. All right, let's go on. Mishnah Hay. So now that we got the gist of how each partsuf increases the or, increases the heat, and it transfers a higher darga of kedusha. And again, we're talking about the pet of Adam Kadmon, and we're talking about the Shoresh Asiri within the pet of Adam Kadmon. In other words, this Shoresh Asiri, the Malchus within the pet of Adam Kadmon, drew out the Sphira of Keser. But when the Sphira of Keser comes out, the way you build a partsuf is from the lowest darga up. That's why we're starting from Malchus, and each Sphira is Mosifim ba miklalus nafsham. They all increase 1 darga up, and so therefore Malchus is shining with a lot of light. The Anpin is shining a little bit less, and etc., etc. And Keser has only its own light, but it doesn't have the additional light that the other dargas have. Therefore, Yairu b'nukva kol hachamesh. Therefore, it shines in Malchus all 5 dargas, all 5 neshamas, which is nefesh ruach neshama chaya yechida. Ubezer arba, and in Zer Anpin it's only nefesh ruach neshama chaya. Ube'ima shalash, and within Ima there's only the nefesh ruach neshama. Ube'aba, and in the parts of Abba, which is chachma, shnayim, which is nefesh and ruach. Ube'arich echad, and by Keser, which is arich, only the darga of nefesh. V'kulam heime or pnimi, and this is all from the or pnimi. This is the or which is yotzi miped adam kadmai. Ulefichach, and therefore, ata zun hayochalim la'amid panim bepanim. Because of this, because there's a lot of or for zer anpin and nukva, they both have enough or, and what we call this in Kabbalah is mochin. Zer anpin and nukva have achieved the darga of mochin, because if you think about it, nefesh is keneged malchus, ruach is keneged zer anpin, neshama and chaya is keneged abba and ima. So since these oros are increasing within each other, so what does malchus have? Malchus has naran chai. Zer anpin has naran and chaya. But what that means is that both of them have mochin. Both of them have mochin. Both of them have abba and ima. And you know, and this is a big klal, that zun cannot unite. There can't be a yichud zun, a yichud of zer anpin and malchus, if there's no mochin. If there's no koyach hamochin. Right? In other words, if zun only has what it has, then they can't unite. Zun has to have mochin. Usually speaking, when you say mochin, so you mean a hamshacha from Abba and Ima. Now, within this hamshacha of Abba and Ima, there is also chsadim and gvuros. There's also chsadim and gvuros. How can we explain?
Like the chamisha chasadim, the chamisha gvuros.
Yes, yeah, the chamisha chasadim, chamisha gvuros, the chamisha chasadim and the chamisha gvuros. So you're looking at Siddur HaRashash. You can see a clear distinction between mochin and chug. Chug. You're talking about chasadim and gvuros. That's chug. So what's the difference between the chasadim and gvuros and mochin? So mochin is the shemos. Av, Sag, Man, Ben, or Kasa, Kamag, and Kana, meaning Ekia of Yudin, Ekia de Alphin, and Ekia de Hayin. Kasa, Kamag, and Kana, or Av, Sag, Man, Ben. So that's Mochin. Chsadim and Gvuros are usually depicted as Shemos of Havaya. By the way, that's the side of the words savrei. When you say savrei maranan, savrei, because you have the beis. The beis means that there's two entities, chsadim and gvuros, right? And then you have the yud. The yud represents 5 shemos of avaya, So that's 10 shemos. So again, you have the chug, which is 2 entities, which is the beis. You have the 10, the yud of savri, which is for these 10 shemos, and you have the sar, which is the total of these 10 shemos. Sar, beis, yud. It's like a code for these chsadim and gvuros, savri. And what you're doing is you're drawing them down. You're drawing them down to malchus. When you say savri maranan, you're drawing down chug. You're drawing down chug, the shemes hakedoshim of chug to malchus. You see a definitive difference between between Mochen, which is Av, Sag, Man, Ben, Kasa, Kamad, Kana, and between Chug, which is Chsadim and Gvuris, which is Shemitz of Avayim. So we're saying now, and because Zun was Makabel Mochin, because Malchus has Naran Chai, and Zer Anpin has Naran and Chaya, because of that, Zun is able to stand Panim Bepanim. Zun is able to stand Panim Bepanim. By the way, have no doubt, every time you're saying Kriyas Shema, the reason why you're saying Kriyas Shema, and you're beginning with the words Shema Yisrael, and then you're ending with the word Echad. Echad is the Yichud Zun. But you can't do Echad if you don't have Shema Yisrael. Why? Because Shema Yisrael is Mochin. It's Mochin. If you don't have Shema Yisrael, you don't have Echad. Because you can't unite Zun. You can't unite Zun. That's why I say Shema Yisrael first. Shema Yisrael, and then you have Mochin, and then you can have a Yichud Zun. So let's go on. So again, therefore Zun was able to stand face to face to each other. They could be miyached. They could stand panim bepanim because they have mochen. Mashenkein Abba v'Ima. Abba and Ima cannot. Abba and Ima cannot at this point stand panim bepanim. Shemipnei chesed and shleimusa meina yicholim lamed ela achar ba'achar. Because they're chesed, their own dargos, so they could only stand back to back. Just to end off with a kavana, which is a negea to achar ba'achar. Achar ba'achar is shmira, it's protection. One time I was learning with my son. I was introducing him to Minyanim of Rosh Hashanah, and I explained to him that in the beginning, Adam Rishon and Chava were du partufim. They were achor ba'achor. They were back to back, and I read to him that the back to back is the shmira, that chitzonim, so that both panim are facing outwards and the backs are together, so that the partsufim can be safe from chitzonim. So he said an interesting thing. I think it's kedai. He said that you find in some traditions of fighting that the best way to fight when you're surrounded is back to back, is achor ba'achor, because that way you could make sure that there's no, as they would say in Kabbalah, there's no unika to chitzonim when there's achor ba'achor. So if we don't have mochen, you better pray that we're achor ba'achor, because at least we have a little bit of shmira.